No pioneer passed through the impenetrable grasslands maze surrounding Anhedonia, Saskatchewan, except by accident, having been lost for sometimes a month before seeing its sod huts sprawled on the sky-stunned steppe like concussed prairie dogs. Worse, no one could find his or her way out again, even though the region was so arid that pioneers had to break their bodies hauling water to keep parched crops from expiring before growing into something minimally edible. Then there were the spring inundations and early winter blasts that often murdered the poor stunted plants before anything useful could be gleaned. In the months between, the sun baked the barren plain into cement, and the labor of cultivating it reduced grown men to tears and transformed women into shrill harridans. The work was so exhausting to horses, oxen, and men that even women and children had to harness themselves to the plows to break the sod. But what truly shattered the settlers' hearts was that all their plowing only caused the soil, the grass roots holding it together now severed, to levitate in great clouds at the least breeze, to sting the eyes, fill homes with dust, darken the sun, and then insouciantly migrate across the flatlands labyrinth to greener pastures, usually taking any sown seeds with it. Even when some tubers and seeds retained enough soil cover to survive and avoided the plagues of locusts, the denuded, broken earth provided a welcoming seedbed for virulent weeds of the most noxious sort. The worst was a gigantic variant on the Russian thistle known as the monstrous Russian thistle, or giant tumbleweed, which grew into a light 6-meter round sphere of prickly leaves and flowers that left its roots behind at the slightest breeze and bounded across the plain like a grotesque mix of porcupine and kangaroo. Its speed was only limited by the wind's power. In a cyclone, it could sometimes attain escape velocity. Allegedly, astronauts on the Space Shuttle Endeavour in 1992 found a giant tumbleweed blocking sunlight from the solar array of a top-secret defense surveillance satellite. The weed's effects on crops were even more devastating, and weeding did little good because the monstrous things thrived everywhere. And when the winds rose, these mastodon-sized thorn balls just bulldozed through the crops and came to rest against the settlers' pathetic huts, burying them in mountains of spiky vegetable matter. As a result, Anhedonia enjoyed an enviable economic stability, entirely avoiding the unsettling boom and bust cycle afflicting many prairie towns. Some ecologists lauded the early pioneers for achieving a steady state economy, though critics point out that a steady state of bust was perhaps undesirable, and the village economy was actually less steady than moribund. One settler, Cauliflower Edward Coolidge, a dedicated vegetable gardener, grew so discouraged he made a cross out of boards, painted his name on it, planted it in the village graveyard, dug a tunnel beneath it, burrowed inside, and waited for the sweet surcease of eternal sleep. Less because of thirst or hunger than boredom, he crawled out a few days later and returned to his ruined, varmint-ridden shack, where, having failed at dying, He grew so depressed he died of a broken heart. His fellow villagers reburied him in the same grave, but left his tunnel open, just in case he grew bored again. Other defeated pioneers took flight from Anhedonia, but few escaped. The bleached bones of some still turn up in the grassland's maze. Other fugitives formed ragged and despairing bands that lurked in lost arroyos and hidden gulches, meditating upon the midday sun, preying on passers-by, or inventing strange apocalyptic religions of a predominantly gloomy cast. The few who got away rarely spoke of their past, except feverishly in tediously disjointed sentences that drove listeners away in a state of disturbed perplexity, or forced them into a dispiriting consideration of despondency's infinite gradations.